My guest today is a rising star in contemporary fiction. Hailing from India and shaped by her upbringing in New Jersey, Pallavi Sharma Dixit has captivated readers with her debut novel Edison, celebrated for its vivid portrayal of the Indian American experience and its homage to the exuberance of Bollywood. Pallavi's literary journey has been recognized with prestigious accolades, including the Asian American Writers' Workshop, Pages in Progress Prize, supported by esteemed institutions like Jerome Hill Artist Fellowship Program and the Minnesota State Arts Board. Holding an MFA in creative writing from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, Pallavi currently resides in Minneapolis with her family. And this is her book. So thank you so much for coming to ITV Gold for this beautiful interview that I anticipate.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and especially because this studio is in Edison, which is the origin of my book. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. Share with us the pivotal moments that shaped your journey from India to New Jersey and how these experiences influenced your approach to storytelling.
Sure, I would love to talk about that. I was raised in Edison, New Jersey, although I was born in India, but very sort of incidentally. My parents had already immigrated to this country, to the US, and they went back to India for a wedding. And while they were there, I was born. And then I came back to America with them when I was 3 months old. So, but I grew up with Indian citizenship and had to be naturalized in high school. But I did grow up here in Edison, and I remember when there was just the one Indian grocery store here, if you can believe that, because now there's just hundreds and hundreds of Indian-owned businesses, and it has become this sort of the headquarters almost of Indians in America in a way. And I just always thought that was just so interesting because it's not in a big city like where you might find like a little India, like in New York and Queens, they have that, and Jackson Heights. Chicago, Toronto, but this is just a suburb that somehow just became what it is today, and I just thought somebody has to write about this.
For you, it was Oak Tree Road, I would say, right?
Yeah, Oak Tree Road is sort of the center, although yes, it radiates out, I think, from Oak Tree Road, to the greater area and to the other towns too. But somehow the name Edison has become synonymous with all things Indian in America. So just growing up around that, I just thought, wow, this is really something.
Talk about some of your childhood memories when you mentioned there was one grocery store. What was the name and what were other stores back in those days?
Gosh, yeah. Well, so I was young. This was in the 80s. And I remember there was one grocery store, I think it was called America India Traders or something of that sort. And my mom referred to it as the Indian store. Okay, we're going to the Indian store now, which had this amazing combination of produce and Indian items. And then there was Stardust magazine hanging there, and then movies started to come in as people began getting VCRs, and then so we'd go there to rent movies, and often they were pirated movies, and all of these little details just stuck in my head, and they're such a part of my upbringing. And there's always, I remember little bells on the door that had a distinct sound, and I included all of that in the book, changing the names of the businesses, of course. There are a few that are the actual stores, but a lot of them I don't even remember. But I just wanted to capture the essence of what that was.
Did you go to India a lot, like the country India? I'm not talking about mini India right now here in Edison, but
I did.
How often would you go?
Yeah, I was very fortunate growing up that my parents would go often back to India. Their entire families were there, and they both have large families, lots of siblings, and we were the only ones here in America, so we did go very often. I think growing up for a while, it was every other year, and then when I was in about high school, I really felt I wanted to know India better, and I wanted my relatives to know me, and to love me not just because they had to, but because they knew what my personality was. So I just said, I'm going to go for the whole summer. And my parents would send me 3 months. I would go. I would stay in Jaipur with my one Masi.
Wow.
And it was magical. And that was the time when I fell in love with Hindi movies, which now the world calls Bollywood. But at the time, it was just Hindi movies. And my one cousin that I'm very close with, who's the same age as I am, we just had the best time, and she kind of gave me a full education in Hindi movies. So even now, my mom and my Masi were asking, like, as they were reading the book, like, how do you know these old references? And I said, what do you think I was doing in Jaipur all those summers? And there was actually one.
So you would go to the theater and watch the movies?
We would go to the theaters, we would rent them, we would, I remember the movie. So in Jaipur, there's one really large single screen cinema called Raj Mandir.
Raj Mandir.
Do you know that one?
Yes, I've been there. It's
oh my
a beautiful experience. I remember they used to have like a perfume sprayed in the theater.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
I didn't include that. I wish I had included that in my book. That's a beautiful detail. But yeah, I mean, it's those kinds of theaters are so rare now, just one huge single screen. And they were showing the movie Beta with Madhuri Dixit, Anil Kapoor, and we had seen it a few times already at home, but then they released an extra song, a bonus song. So we went to the theater just to see that song. So those were the kinds of things we were doing. We were silly teenagers. But one summer we decided, okay, we're gonna be more serious about our love of these movies. And my cousin bought us some train tickets to, it was Bombay, I think at that time, Mumbai. And we were like, we're going, we wanna see some movie shootings. And my Masi was like, what are you talking about? You two girls just running off to Bombay. How are you going to see? What's happening? I think I was 15. So she frantically calling the other Masi cousin who was there, and so we were able to stay with her, and they had a connection to this Mehboob Studios, which I'm sure you know, and we somehow got to go on set and watch this shooting of a movie. And
which film was
it? Was such a, not one that was ended up being a hit or my particular favorite, but it was called Bewafa Se Wafa.
Okay.
Yeah, but there were other movies also being shot at the time, so there's all these stars were there, and we were starstruck, and somehow the guards got to know us, so we went every day. We just stood and watched. And so at that time, I mean, we met Salman Khan and Jackie Shroff, Juhi Chawla was there, Manisha Koirala, that whole era. But I think the most interesting thing, and some of the older actors like Bran,
you are so lucky.
Aruna Irani, it was like quite amazing. But I think the most incredible thing is that Shah Rukh Khan was there, but he was not a movie star yet. He had been on the show, which I'm sure you know, called Fauji, I think. Fauji, yeah.
Yes.
I had not watched it because I didn't watch TV shows, and they weren't shown in America at that time, the Hindi shows. But my cousin was a huge fan. She said, we have to get a picture with him. He's really good. And I was like, oh, I guess so. Okay, we're not doing, let's take a picture with this guy. So we have this picture. I'm sort of reluctantly in the picture. And that was Shah Rukh Khan, who is, the biggest movie star. So anyway, those kinds of experiences from those summers, they make up part of this book. So while that exact experience is not in there, Mehboob Studios is in there, and I remember what the layout was like, and my character, he's interested in filmmaking, and he kind of, I was able to reference Mehboob Studios and what that looked like.
So the lead character or any character for an author are shaped after the author, I would say, conceived after the author, even the good ones, the bad ones, the primary, the secondary. Did you at any point of time want to be an actor, get into filmmaking?
I think you're speaking like a writer, like knowing that, we do put so much of ourselves into our characters. So I did not want to get into filmmaking or acting. I knew I wanted to write, but Prem, the main character who does want to do something related to the Bollywood film world, he has some of the same struggles that I had. So I gave him, my kind of push and pull of like, oh, should I do something sensible or should I do something artistic? What is the world going to think? What are my parents going to think? And will I be able to do this? It's such a hard path. It's this nebulous, like there's no guarantees. So in that sense, Prem is very much me.
He takes on all your struggles as well, your dilemmas.
Yeah. That's how I can relate to him. Obviously, my story is very different from his. I'm not. He was raised in India. I was not, and he. Very different family and situations, but I could feel his pain, that he felt like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing this, or what is the right place for me? What should I do? Should I pursue this? And of course, with him, his career gets sort of tied up in his love for this woman, Lena, who lives in an apartment complex in Edison that I've invented. And she lives with her father, who owns a grocery store, but he does not approve of Prem, who, when he comes to America, is working at the Exxon gas station. And he feels, no, this is not the right guy.
How did you meet your husband, by the way?
Oh, my lovely husband who's here. Yes, we were in college together. We both went to the University of Pennsylvania. And actually, we did not get together at that time. We had met, we were acquainted. And about 8 or 10 years after that, 8 years after we graduated, we ran into each other in a party, and he was already living in Minnesota, and I was living in Massachusetts, and we met. We were at a college friend's party in New York City on New Year's, and we bumped into each other, and I always say I just knew. When I saw him, I thought, oh, Amol Dixit this year. I think probably I'll marry him.
I was curious because you've had a gender switch here into Prem. So your husband is not the woman,
right? Oh, he's not. No.
In the novel,
he's not at all.
Does he figure out in your novel at all?
Well, in my novel, I included names like of loved ones. So his name is in there a few times, and my kids' names, Reina, Deccan, my parents' names, my in-laws. So they're all in there, and they have to. It's fun as they're reading it. They notice like, oh, I'm on this page. But in terms of his character, my husband is, he's not a character, but we always joke that we're the same level of Indian. Where we both have the same relationship with India. We grew up going back. We loved the movies about the same level. Kind of loved the older ones more, and then it dropped off as we got older. And so throughout the writing process, I would run things by him, and he would verify them, and he would add to things. He's a really creative person himself.
So he was like a bouncing board for you, for your ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've given him the credit.
I think so. In the acknowledgements, I think so. But I can't thank him enough.
At what point of time did you decide that you wanted to be a writer, and especially like give an homage to Bollywood in some way?
Yeah, I think it's two different answers really, because I knew sort of towards the end of college that I'd like to write something, because I just really fell in love with literature. It was a little bit too late to be an English major though. I was in communications and history, but and I wish I could go back and study English, but then I went into publishing from college. But I all the time had in the back of my mind that I would eventually write something and go to graduate school for creative writing. And I knew pretty early on in graduate school that I wanted to write about Edison, but I didn't know how. And I kept trying different things, just, years of studying, reading. Reading is the most important thing for becoming a writer.
But you were also holding on to and collecting stardusts and, film magazines.
I read all of those. I would still go to India pretty often, and then it just clicked. I was writing like a beginning section, and all of a sudden, I decided, Amitabh Bachchan is going to be in this scene. It just came, writers sometimes say, it just comes to me, and it's hard to believe that, but it happened.
For you, it was Shashi Kapoor.
Well, Amitabh Bachchan came.
Okay.
He's in the book. He's a character. But yeah,
like
my character
Amitabh Bachchan?
As Amitabh Bachchan, yeah.
Okay.
He's a pretty prominent character because he actually has spent time in Edison. He was involved with some TV ventures back when, and so it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. So he showed up at this Exxon gas station, and he meets Prem, who does look like Shashi Kapoor in my mind.
Wow.
So yeah, that Bollywood part of it just clicked then that,
And who does Leena look like?
She looks like Priyanka Chopra.
Oh.
Yes. I think that Leena really came to life for me when I realized Priyanka, I just think of her as being so, she's a Desi girl. She's so full of life and so confident, ambitious, and obviously beautiful. And I just thought, this is Leena for sure.
Is she a Patel?
Oh, Leena?
Yeah.
She's an engineer is her last name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there are Patels. There are a lot of Patels and a lot of, I tried to cover a range of last names. I was always looking on the last names, surnames from India list, baby names from India. So it was fun.
Great. How do you approach your storytelling? What is your narrative like? What is the flow or the structure that you adhere to while writing?
In the beginning, I didn't know because there's so many ways to write a book. Some people just start and they get everything out onto the page and then they kind of mold it afterwards. And I tried that, but it was nothing was really coming together. But after I realized I wanted to write, about Edison, this love story, Bollywood themes, then I started studying sort of plot structure and here's where we have to have the opening and set everything up, and then here's where the climax has to be, here's where it has to kind of come down, and I had a very long plot structure, like chapter by chapter, this is what has to happen. I didn't know, how is such and such thing going to happen. I don't want to give away too much of the plot, but how will this has to happen. I have to get from A to B. I don't know how. So within that, I'll just start writing, but it has to end at this place, and then the next thing has to happen. So in a way, there's a lot of structure, but then a lot of room to just have fun. And I really had fun there were a lot of real Bollywood actors who play themselves in this story. So I had a lot of fun kind of making up dialogue for them. And
it's visually very rich, if you were to envisage this as a screenplay, it's already there. You don't really need to adapt it.
See, you're a filmmaker, so you can see it that way.
I can totally see it that way.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, people see things differently. I can see it on the page because I'm really, I love language. I love the words and putting together the sentence. So I think people have said, it's visual. I can see it like this and that, like as you can. But I think I would need a lot of help to get it there.
You're almost there. Talk about some of your personal experiences or cultural elements that inspired the narrative.
Let's see, as I said, there's the India part of it that inspired sort of the beginning part of Prem's backstory, all the time in India that I had. And then just growing up on Oak Tree Road, there's so many, I didn't grow up on Oak Tree Road, near Oak Tree Road, but, visiting a lot. So the things I saw there show up a lot in the book. So for instance, there's an India Day parade that happens here every year. And one summer, my husband and I came here. I had a grant to come and study the India Day Parade.
Wow.
And I took lots of notes, tons of pictures, and just, that's a chapter in the book, or a chapter or a section. And there's so much. It's such a rich kind of, tapestry of just detail. So I came back with just pages and pages of detail that I kind of threw in there. So similarly, like there's Indian American beauty pageants. I thought that, that's an incredible thing that happens in America. There's state pageants and then national, and so that there's a scene at a pageant there, and then of course the garbas.
I was about to say that.
I'm
sure the love story grows at Garba.
You can't write about Edison without talking about that big garba that happens every year, and so there is a scene there. Leena and Prem don't dance together there. She's not Gujarati. She felt very, very strongly she should not be doing garba, but but there's a scene there.
Do you know garba yourself?
I don't. So I'm not Gujarati, but I had a lot of wonderful Gujarati friends in college. So at some of their wedding times, they would have a garba the night before. So they would kind of teach the non-Gujaratis some steps, and so we could get by, but I wouldn't advertise that at all.
Walk us through your creative process in crafting Edison. How did you develop the diverse cast of characters and weave their stories together?
Yeah, I think I was talking about that structure, and I think after I had the structure in place, then all these other characters started showing up. For instance, Prem, I knew he was going to be working at a gas station in Edison. He has
a best friend.
He has a bunch of roommates. They all share like one tiny flat, and they're all sleeping on mattresses. And there's one owner of this flat, but like 7 guys are sleeping there, and they work at the gas station. So that becomes his friend
Did you have
group.
a particular gas station in mind, or like a flat, probably hilltop or someplace? What were you thinking and visualizing while writing?
For the gas station, it was the Exxon that's on the corner of Oak Tree and I think it's Grove, for sure. And there's when I was growing up, across the street, there was a little house that was Athena the Psychic Reader. So for so many years.
Still is, right?
It doesn't say Athena anymore, just a psychic reader.
Psychic, yeah.
So I included that, I changed the name. So that's in the book, just a little mention. The apartment complex, it was just from my imagination. It was really, there's so many around, and I don't know, I've only been in a handful of apartments, so that was all invented. I did there is a nonfiction book about Edison called Suburban Sahibs, written by Mitra Kalita, and it's a really in-depth study of the community here, and she's a journalist, a very renowned journalist, and she wrote this book, so that really helped me a lot to make sure I was getting some degree of accuracy, even though it was fiction. So some things are fictionalized, some things are straight from my history.
So once again, why don't you tell our readers where all they can find your book?
Oh yes, you can find it anywhere books are sold. So online at barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, at bookshop.org, which supports independent bookstores, or you could just go to your local bookstore, whether that's a small store or Barnes & Noble, and if they're not carrying it, they can order it for you. And it's actually also available in India through Amazon, which we discovered recently, where some of my relatives started ordering it. So
you would be a big celebrity. You should totally go to India and do the book signing there.
I don't know. It would be fun. I always am ready to go to India. So
thank you, Pallavi, for sharing your incredible journey and insights into the creation of Edison. For those eager to embark on this literary journey, Edison, it is available now at Barnes & Noble's bookshop and Amazon. Don't miss out on discovering this heartfelt debut novel, Edison.